fossil fuel industry has apparently now given more money than ever before in this election cycle. And you'll never guess to who. Nah, you probably could actually. But anyway, two super PACs tied to the leaders of the Republican caucus in the House and Senate have brought in just tons of money specifically from fossil fuel interests, including companies like ConocoPhillips and CEOs like Tim Dunn. The fossil fuel industry gave more than $20 million combined in the third quarter of this year to the Congressional Leadership Fund and the Senate Leadership Fund. This is according to a Sludge analysis. This brings their total this cycle to $54.2 million. That outpaces, by the way, the $32 million that they gave around this time in the 2020 cycle. So not quite twice as much as they did in 2020, but quite a bit of money. And let's just stop for a second. Look, we're gonna focus on this corruption, but just think about the fact that Elon Musk gave 50% more than all of the fossil fuel industry. We are reaching levels of corruption that, like, if you had proposed them a couple of years ago, people would have said you're being like apocalyptic. But that's what's going on. And it reminds me, by the way, earlier this cycle, Donald Trump went to one of these dinners filled with millionaires and billionaires, and he pressed oil executives to give him $1 billion. That's what he wanted. He told a bunch of rich people wrecking our climate to give him $1 billion. And he told them that giving him $1 billion would be a deal, according to him, because of the taxation and regulation they would avoid thanks to him. And apparently all of that is legal. Sounds like the most obvious, like, cartoonish scale bribery that we've ever seen in our life. Now, they did not scrape together the $1 billion, but it's still 50 million, and that is a good bit. Francesca, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we need to constantly be pointing out. I mean, what sucks about, it is not just that we have to talk about climate change when it comes to, the supercharged hurricanes that we've seen slamming into the southeast of the country, but it's also, we have to talk about the money. And it's the one thing, like, I mean, if the mainstream news is more allergic to something more than talking about climate change, it's talking about money in our politics and how much industry influences our politics. And so to me, I mean, it's really upsetting when Joe Biden touts that no one has been opening more gas and oil wells than his administration. And it's true that we are producing a record amount of oil because we're gonna do the climate change stuff later. So we have to, I mean, again, it's like bombing for peace, right? When does it stop? At some point, you have to decide to stop it. You have to keep it in the ground. But of course, yes, disproportionately, it does go to the GOP. And so you have to name that. I don't understand why we still live in fear. And I think we're gonna have to think a lot more structurally and boldly when it comes to climate action. The Inflation Reduction Act was a really important step in the right direction, but these reforms are not happening quick enough to stave off the worst impacts of the climate catastrophe. And so in this sense, I think the right is correct that they're like, oh, they want socialism. And it's like, yeah, but that would help. That actually would really help. You can't have infinite growth on a finite planet. You can't allow this amount of wealth hoarding, of private jets, of those kinds of emissions. Wealth hoarding is part of what leads to this amount of carbon in the atmosphere. So it's all connected, bro, whatever.
Yeah, I think the term you were looking for, Francesca, was it's not bombing for peace anymore. It is de-escalation through escalation.
I was thinking that
You've
too.
Yes,
updated
yes.
our language.
Namaste.
But on this point, it's just like such an obvious bribe. It's like they're not even trying to hide it. They don't need to hide it. What's the repercussions? What law is there? What Supreme Court decision? What FEC guideline is there that this would violate? It's just so egregious, and they can do whatever they want, and it's only getting worse. So of course they're just heeding his call. And for Elon Musk, like you say, he relies so heavily on government subsidies for all of his enterprises. Most of their wealth is speculative, or most of their valuation is speculative. And a lot of it relies on continued government subsidies for Tesla and SpaceX and whatever. He doesn't want to be subject to all the unionization requirements for different parts of Biden's policies. So Trump repealing that opens the floodgates to more subsidies, more tax breaks for consumers who want to buy those products, those cars that aren't made by union laborers. So these issues are intersectional. That's why you need to see, and why we should support, obviously, a greener future and policies that would ensure that, but also a strong, robust labor sector, because a unionized workforce is going to create a green future. And that's why we have to see these as intersectional issues.
Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below, because that makes you a member, and members allow us to be independent, honest. We can be as progressive as we want, no corporate media influence, and that's all because of you guys. We love doing the show with our members. Hit the join button, become one of the Young Turks.